So this is kind of a unique video. It's ratings season. It's Madden ratings are coming out, but more than that, ESPN is coming out with their top 10 lists at every position. Really, what they're trying to do is prime us for training camp, prime us for football. In other words, they don't have anything to talk about. But what we can see in Detroit is the difference from year to year on who's there, who's not, what type of elite talent do we have. So here's what I want to do. I want to talk about what we went into last year with, and then what we're going into this year with. And they're not done. They're doing a position every single day type of thing, but we already have more than one player, more than two players that have cracked the top 10, proving that we have elite talent in Detroit. So before we start, let's reverse. Let's go back in time to last year when top 10 rankings were coming out. There was one player that was making that list on this team, and that was Frank Ragnow. And he's the only one. He is the only player on this team with top 10. He was the only player with top 10 talent at his position. He's the only one that is kind of that all-pro almost caliber, consistent Pro Bowl caliber player. This year is different. And I was reading an article here at Pride of Detroit, and it was actually an article talking about how Jared Goff missed the top 10, but he was number 11, or at least received several votes. So he was right there, which is kind of cool. But I will spend time later talking about Goff and the other players that I think might make the list. But before that, I want to talk about the other stuff. So, and I have some interesting Goff Stafford stuff. So you're definitely going to want to hear this. But it says Goff becomes the 5th Lions player to earn votes in this series of survey. CJ Gardner-Johnson was 8th on the top safeties list. So CJ Gardner-Johnson wasn't on this team a year ago. He's now ranking as a top 10 player. Then Penei Sewell came in 6th amongst offensive tackles. That's out of 64 starters. 64 starters, right and left tackles. He came in at 6th, and Taylor Decker received votes. So both of our bookends, the most important position on the offensive line, and they both got there. Not only that, Frank Ragnow was ranked in the top 10 as interior offensive lineman and the 3rd best center. So we have 3 players on that offensive line that are all top 10 at their position, or their position like group, their area, interior line. That's out of 96 starters that Frank Ragnow got. So last year was Frank Ragnow. This year, it's CJ Gardner-Johnson, it's Penei Sewell, and it's still Frank Ragnow. Tomorrow comes out the list for top 10 wide receivers. Will St. Brown crack it? I think he should. Will he? I don't know. He didn't crack the top 10 in Madden's ratings. I know that much. So he was not in the top 10, which was kind of frustrating. The top 10 went all the way down to 91. He was an 87 overall, which to an extent I get, but I think he should have been higher. But let's talk about Stafford and let's talk about Jared Goff. First, let's hear what they had to say about Goff just coming outside the top 10. It said Goff rarely got a single vote over the past 3 years, but this year he appeared on nearly 25% of ballots after leading Detroit to 9 wins, thanks in part to a 29-7 touchdown interception ratio, said Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. All right. He also said he's been a good thrower of the football. His issue, to me, was toughness, particularly in the pocket, an anonymous scout said. I thought he addressed a lot of that this year and stood tall. I agree. He got significantly better with pressure in his face. So the quarterbacks who bested him in the bottom 10 included Trevor Lawrence at 8, Dak Prescott at 9th, and the player who replaced Goff in LA, Matt Stafford. So I want to go back and talk for a second about that trade. We've done it before, but people often wonder, did we get the best deal in that trade? Yes, I understand Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl in LA. I'm not going to go there. I was going to say some really silly stuff. I'm not going to go there. But right now, Stafford ranks 11th on this ESPN top 10 list, or Stafford ranks 10. Goff is right behind him at 11. We got 2 first rounders and a third rounder. Who won the trade? Like, we have a younger quarterback. Matthew Stafford, yet again, did not play a full season, not even close to it. Not even close to it last year. So we've got this stuff, and it's like, okay, we have elite talent. We have players that aren't even on these lists that maybe they should be. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown. He absolutely can make an argument to be a top 10 wide receiver. PFF has him graded out as the second best wide receiver in the NFL. Number 2. What about Aiden Hutchinson? After his rookie year, does he deserve, or does he at least deserve consideration for being a top 10 edge or defensive end? Does he? I think he might. I don't think Sutton, I don't think Mosley are a top 10 consideration yet, but you have 3 players who are already top 10 at their position, with another 2, one might be more, that or another 3 that have consideration. And all this just goes to show, and it proves that Brad Holmes, and I guess I don't need to leave that up there. All this proves and all this shows that Brad Holmes is drafting better talent than we've ever seen at Detroit before. It also shows that Dan Campbell and this coaching staff are putting players in position to win better than we have ever seen before. This is really exciting, and I think the fan base knows it. I think that's why views are up across the board for Detroit Lions, whether it's reading of articles, whether it's watching of YouTube videos. We've loved having the increased excitement about the season, and now the season's starting to roll back. I know it's mid-July. To me, it feels like season's about to start. Most people are like, what are you talking about, man? Season doesn't start till September. Well, I'm telling you right now, the Lions season for me starts with that first preseason game. And it also starts with training camp, which is just a few days away. So yeah, we've got this kind of stuff. I'm excited about it. There is legit talent. And if you have 5 players that are either top 10 at their position or close to the top 10 at their position, then a guy like Jared Goff can absolutely win you a ton of football games, And we were worried about offensive regression this year. We have 3 players in the top 10 on the offensive line rankings right now. You're telling me that this offense is going to regress when the offensive line is continuing to just be better? Penei Sewell is getting better every single year. Frank Ragnow is in the middle of his prime, at least should be. Hopefully those toes are better. All right. And Decker is still on the right side of 30. He might be 30 this year. But anyways, all this is going well. So that's really all I have for you. And I hope you enjoyed the video. And I hope that you're getting ready to gear up for a ton of Lions content. Basketball's hitting the dead season with the Pistons. So less Pistons, more Lions coming at you. Rest up, get ready for training camp, and let's do this. See you on the next one.